खत्म हो गई, पर मेरा लाठी तो है। What it meant that I was the type of your family. My business was to punish any recalcitrant rentier or a peasant or a son of any class. That is famous name from Bihar, Swami Sadananda Saraswati. He started as a class leader, but when he found that the Jamindar treats his class rajat in the same way as any other class rajat, he became a Kisan, and finally he became a Marxist at the end of his life. Much better in many ways than most communists. But that's the way the class is vanishing. Is it vanishing? The professors, how do you differentiate the classes? In my opinion, Marx is differentiating in three ways. There is capitalist, the bourgeoisie, whose source of power is money. It is money with which he buys our labor power. It is money with which he buys the honesty of the policeman. Or it's all money. And then the other end is proletariat, whose only source of power is number, as Marx puts it, number. That is collectivity. Their collectivity is the only source of power. Anything that fragments their collectivity is anti-labor. I asked a communist leader from West Bengal, he is no longer alive. He has written a good book on the emergence of working class and its movement. His name is Subomal Sen. He concludes that the division of the trade union movement in India in 1947, that the formation of Indian National Trade Union Congress was the greatest attack of the Indian bourgeoisie on the Indian working class. The principle is that any division or whatever reason that takes place among the working class is anti-working class. I asked him what was the formation of the NCIT, and he got angry and I stopped. But that's, and who is wrong, who is right? You cannot say everybody is engaged in the name of the working class, dividing the working class. Trade union is not a political party. You can have different political parties, right? Not mine. But trade union is a school of the politics of the divided trade union movement does not lead working class workers to achieve working class consciousness. Quite often I am asked, workers, these are workers. Organized sector workers are no longer workers. Only unorganized sector workers are workers. They don't think themselves in that form. But Marx said very bluntly that the workers are revolutionary. Not because they think so, but because they are workers. But the problem is in abstraction. You can't find working class concretely. You can't slot some individual, he belongs to working class, he doesn't belong to working class. Working class is formed. Class is always in the process of forming, and it is formed politically, economically, politically, and ideologically in classes. You cannot find it here. It is always in the process of thought. And the only way of forming it is to make them struggle. The struggle they do separately. That is something to be discussed on identity. Worker is an identity, but working class is not an identity. Yet. There are other identities which divides the working class. One has to think how these identities may not be whispered, but they can culminate into a class of opposition. That depends upon our strategy and tactics. So the class that we are saying exists. Again, we have both class term. These three classes, bourgeoisie, that is the capitalist class, the proletariat, the working class, and the petty bourgeoisie, the third, the so-called middle class. I don't know. But how do you differentiate them? Are all petty bourgeoisie non-working? Most of them are working. Most of them are working, not for wages. They sell labor, if they sell at all, not labor for house. They can be peasants, they can be artisans, they can be professionals, they can be professionals of various varieties, consultants, and these kinds. They could have been professors, but I don't think professors now are in the category of petty bourgeois. Increasingly, they are getting proletariatized. Engineers are no longer petty bourgeoisie. They have been totally reduced to the proletariat. In the condition of work, everywhere. What is contract teachers? Is their condition of work different from the ordinary wage workers? One has to check. And Marx writes in Capitalism, Vol. 1, say as capitalism grows, those who are not yet proletarians, but workers, that implies they will be increasingly proletarianized as capitalism proceeds. The only change in capitalism which one has to tackle practically, not theoretically, as one, is that the new technology has enabled fragmentation of the workers. But theoretically, Marxism can understand it, does understand it, it predicts it. If this is the technology, this will happen. But that technology was not available in Marx's time. But if you are Marx today, use Marx, it will totally explain why fragmentation takes place. How it is part of increasing control of labor without sometimes direct supervision. I was in Germany in 1984 trying to study their industrial relation system. I had read in the books that Germany is one wonderful country where there is co-determination. I visited a company, Volkswagen, you know. Very smooth, very calm, quiet. When we were discussing the same, 80% of our production is now found out. Not within Germany, but outside. Outside Germany. And then when I asked, how do you control it? Then they took me to the control room and showed one example how on this panel this lady in a particular house number in South Italy is making it, and it has been produced so much at this in Germany. This is name technology. Decentralized production with centralized control. This could not have been written by Marx, true. But Marx does explain why capital has resorted to this after the crisis of late 1960s and early 1970s. Then one more point, they say that look, class is not very likely. Large scale production factory is not available. But when you read Marx, everything in volume 1 of that, you don't have to read even volume 2 and volume 3, which you must read to understand the whole of capitalism. But to understand what is happening at the workplace, volume of capital is good enough, or rather enough. And fortunately, for the students, I can say that now a cheap edition in a form that the students would like, not a researcher, is now Indian edition of cheap. A brief one, but whole of Marx capital minus the footnotes, which abounds there. The researcher needs to read the footnotes, but the student learning what Marx wrote and not trying to know the sources of Marx thinking can then read that in a small book, the student's Marx. Other books publishers have done it. With this, friends, many things I have left. In order letters, this is good enough. Detailed back. Only thing that I will suggest you, that the scholars that are coming, are all scholars, that you need to question. You need to question yourself sometimes. Like Marx said, doubt everything, including yourself sometimes. Then only you can improve. But classroom situation, the lecturer comes, he gives lecture and goes out. You have assimilated or noted down whatever he said. In IIT, I used to say that the best students are those who could write down. When the teacher says, "You bastard," write down, "You bastard." Because everything has been vomited in the class, you find out the right thing later. But in that, you have no time for thinking in the class. But that's not education. Education is not in learning what the teachers know. Education consists in learning to question the teachers. Because that is your learning. Develop critical thinking yourself. Otherwise, either will be an anti-Marxist or a faithful Marxist. Both are wrong.
In the beginning, I said 6 days may not be sufficient to talk about Marxism. Obviously, 1 hour can't be. But we can have some discussion. Session is till 6 o'clock, isn't it? So we have half an hour left. Questions, comments, anything if you have.
Again. Mistake. I've attended a couple of other conferences by same German organizations like the Center for Civil Society and many other organizations which work for the new liberal motives. The biggest question they are raising against the Marxist perspective of capital is the issue of liberty. Whenever you believe in the liberty of proletariat, why can't you believe in the liberty of capital? Because if you believe that there should be something like, by the name of liberty, there should exist liberty, why can we not give liberty to everyone? why cannot the capital or the capitalists exercise their liberty to what they call for the welfare? So I'm still not convinced with this logic. I want to hear from a respective professor to have a clear clarification of this issue. Thank you.
In today's biggest topic is about relevance of Marxism today. John Bernstein's idea, do you think it is becoming more and more?
Yeah.
I have no problem.
Is Bernstein's logic becoming more and more, let's put the word relevant in today's context of Marxism? And because German revisionism is seen as something which is ridiculed, so how do we approach that? As students as well as somebody who would like to believe in Marxism today?
The first question is, if we talk of liberty of the proletariat, then why not talk of liberty of capital? In fact, I was not talking of liberty of proletariat and liberty of capital. Capital has all the liberty within capitalism. Only labor is exploited and deformed. Through de-skilling, as the technology improves, culturally and everywhere. So the question of liberty of proletariat does not arise at all within the framework of capitalism. And as capital exploits labor, we want to end exploitation. That's all. Am I clear?
Yeah.
Huh?
Well answered.
It is not the liberty. We are saying that capitalism is a system which is based on exploitation and deformation of labor. And we want nobody to be exploited and deformed, including the capitalist, who will not remain capitalist after. The next question is Bernstein becoming more and more relevant today? I don't think so. He was not relevant when he was talking of evolutionary socialism. He is not relevant today. If Marxism is relevant, Bernstein is not. We simply say. Bernsteinism, see what is happening. That you have a system which is breeding all sorts of things. That everybody agrees on. You have not only economic crisis, you have cultural crisis, you have ecological crisis, all bred by capitalism. All bred by capitalism. Capital does not exploit to the health only labor, it exploits also the nature and thus destroy the very basis of life in the world. Vultures have vanished from this country. The sparrows have almost vanished. Now we are left to vanish, that's all. If capitalism continues, there is a danger of human existence or the existence of life in this world. Am I clear? Or any further question? Yes?
आपने जो कहा मार्क्सिज्म के बारे में और इतनी चीज़ें सारे कुछ आपने जब कहा तो सारा चीज़ उससे स्पष्ट होता है, लेकिन ये 150 वर्ष के बाद भी मार्क्स के और उनके विचारों के बाद उनकी बातों के बाद भी आज मार्क्सवाद पे इतनी सवालें जो उठ रही हैं और जो उनका आंदोलन है, उनका आंदोलन नहीं वे सामाजिक परिवर्तन का आंदोलन, वो इतना पीछे वो क्यों बना हुआ है, क्यों इस हाल में आया हुआ है?
Union in Marxism, relationship of Marxism a politically motivated proletariat, and there are the working class as you just described before. Basically, I'm from trade union, so it is more concerned to me. Maybe it's not concerned to other people, but it's very concerned to me, this issue. And I really would like to know in more details of this, relationship, Marxism and then these trade unions. So just like, as you just before said that in Marxism, or Marx did not encourage trade union. If I understand correctly, you just mentioned that Marxism doesn't encourage trade unions because it doesn't divide the working people as working class. So, if so, like my experience in trade union, I'm not aware more about the Marxism before I joined the trade union. But I'm working here, and we are working for all the workers as a working class. Maybe here I'm different. And those workers, we divide them in the white collar and blue collar. And then there are those who work mentally. We say them white collar workers, and they like bank clerks or the telecommunication engineers and all other professionals. And those who are working with the machines and muscles, and we consider them as a blue collar. So, and also this, in the age of this globalization, we also have found the workers of a high-tech workers. So they call themselves as so-called professionals. And there are IT engineers, computer professionals, and so and so. And even we consider doctors as well. So all are in the trade union. So Marxian perspectives can address them in a proletariat, or can divide them in a proletariat or petty bourgeois and even bourgeois, like lawyers, doctors, engineers. Are they bourgeois or in petty bourgeois or in proletariat? According to the Marxism, Marxian perspectives.
Elaborate your point on trade union with relation to party. What is? Do you really believe that it is possible for the different parties to work in one mass organization, in trade union or other mass organizations, despite of having fundamental differences in political assessment or ideologies?
Clarification about class. You have said three class: one bourgeoisie, the capitalist class, and proletariat.
Petty bourgeoisie and
three. You have three. But I know as a Marx have not there two categories class. And I know there please clarify petty bourgeois and the emergence of new class that called later middle class. So please.
If I understand rightly, you mentioned that about political economy. So there have similarities between Marxism and capitalism to promoting labor commodity.
Marxism is a science or an ideology. Capitalism is the fact of life. Absolutely come. That is what Marxism. Marxism is about capitalism. You understand? Marxism explains capitalism, that's all. Trade union and Marxism relationship, huh? See, trade union is just a combination of workers, nothing more and nothing less. It's a combination of workers. Okay? Marxism talks of, rather explains that the place of workers within capitalism. And it says, rather it finds, and you as a trade union leader always will find, that whether you have a trade union or not, there is always conflict between labor and capital. The workers and the employers. Every day, every moment. Marxism just explains why this conflict and how this conflict cannot be resolved by trade unionism. America, trade unionism will always try to reduce the exploitation of labor. You follow me? Trade unionism is an attempt to reduce the exploitation of labor within the capitalist system. So trade union per se is a bourgeois institution. But it is also an organization that fights for workers, in which the workers develop consciousness of their own class. You understand? A leader who is Marxist, and in the trade union, his main business is to lead the workers, fight capital in such a way that they develop class consciousness to the point where they can throw capitalism and build a society based not on competition, that's the logic of capital, but on cooperation, that's the logic of life. You understand the difference? There is a question taken in relation to party. This is the question, no? How is trade union related to a political party of the workers? As I said,
And the contradiction of that name.
as I said, trade union is a combination of the workers which fights to reduce the exploitation of labor or fights for better conditions of wage slavery. It does not fight the slavery itself. You understand wage slavery? There used to be slave, but I as a laborer, is also a slave. Not slave to the master, but slave to wage. We are a wage laborer. If I don't get wage, I will not live. So it's my not freedom that I work. It's my necessity that is unfreedom. I cannot live without working for capital. Now, workers at a certain stage had to form party, had to form a political party, whose aim will be to lead the workers a struggle to end wage slavery itself, that is end capitalism. The relationship. But then the moment in a multi-class society that you have, there is more than one class. The problem, for example, petty bourgeoisie is there, which is not capitalist class. Bourgeoisie is there, proletariat is there. Now the Workers' Party, being autonomous of the trade unions, may have tendency to downgrade the demands of labor itself in favor of larger unity. That danger always remains. I will give an example from no less than the Communist Party of Soviet Union. Very peculiar situation, but a correct position also was told by them. Trotsky, and I hope there is no Trotsky here, and if there are, this would be something. Trotsky brought a resolution in the Central Committee of the Communist Party of Soviet Union against some of the comrades working on trade unions front. He said, the resolution said that these leaders, who are also the members of the Central Committee, are provoking workers against their own state. And those who come from West Bengal should listen to it much more carefully. Their own state. Lenin comes up, stands up and tells you that comrades, there is a problem in your formulation. ours is not yet a proletarian state. Ours is not yet a proletarian state. And that will explain many things that happen in the state. Ours is a workers and parents state. And parents is not proletarian. And in such a situation, the state of the communist, led by the Communist Party, which is not the state of the workers alone, may sometimes take decision which may be anti-labor, and the only guarantee that we don't become anti-working class in our working is that the trade unions have independence of the state and the party. Because unless the protest against our misdeeds, our train of socialism will be derailed. This is what also happens. You have proletariat which has to work for capital, for wages, to live. Okay? You have the bourgeoisie or the capitalist who live by exploiting labor. And even petty bourgeoisie in some sense. Petty bourgeoisie is one who has control over his labor process. Petty bourgeoisie is one who has control over labor process. Worker doesn't have control. Workers' labor process is controlled by some agent of capital. Okay? Capitalist does not do labor. Petty bourgeois has control over its own labor process, either because it owns its own means of production, or it controls the means of production rented out from others. But labor process is under its control. And that is the reason I will say that one who works for both in a situation like India that is normal has to see this source of power, how to make working class as a one group complete coherent politically, or recompose it politically, and how to work, how to lead the petty bourgeoisie to develop control, to get control over the labor process, which is always in the process of attrition. Our professors were petty bourgeois till recently. They were school teachers were. They would teach in the way they like to teach. They were teacher as teacher. Today their condition of labor is terrorized, being terrorized more and more. And to that extent they are getting proletarianized. Their service condition is becoming more insecure. Okay? Petty bourgeois is those who sell labor, another way of looking at it. I produce, I am a peasant. I own my land. I produce with my own labor. Okay? With my own family labor for consumption and sale. So when I sell commodity produced by my labor. So I sell labor. A laborer sells his capacity to earn. Difference between petty bourgeois and the proletariat is the proletariat sells his capacity or her capacity to earn.
Over tea.
See, they said that you don't become communist because you think so. Self-declared everybody is communist or Marxist. So you don't judge the left by its own thinking. You should judge by what it is doing. So if your way of working, if your way of thinking is not proletarian. If you don't base it squarely on the working class, and then from there, look at the petty bourgeoisie, how far they can come with it. Instead of the other way, that you start with the petty bourgeoisie and look at the workers, how far they come to that, you are doomed. You should base your politics, tell your party leaders, politics squarely on the basis of urban and the rural proletariat, and that includes 88% of the peasantry, whom we call peasantry. They are not some. 70% of them earn 54% of their income from wages. Are they Kisan or workers? Where do you place them? Or you are like West Bengal CPM leaders who will not allow trade union formation of agricultural laborers so long as they are good. And I know anybody can tell.
We have only 3 minutes. Last.
So important questions and some issues. I was just trying to ask, like, there were 2 points that you said. One was about as working class or workers as revolutionaries, and the other point you raised was how there is a need to form a party for workers at a certain point of time. What you said was said by Marx. Now, looking at revolutionary movements, I think it is in the beginning important that we understand social movement itself. And if I'm wrong in my question, I think my teacher is sitting just beside you, reformulate the question. But what I'm trying to ask is that the basis of collective action fails, or it is as said in theories. We might have a different view on ground, but it is as it is noticed, or it is more frequently said that as soon as a collective action or a movement changes or becomes a political party, it ceases to be a movement, a revolutionary movement in one way. And it is, the reasons are, there is elite formations, there are different motives that develop at the hierarchical level. So how do we deal with this problem? Is there not a conflict between trade unionism of the workers, that is of the working class, and the political party system that is going on in contrast to it?
That is very interesting, but it requires a lot of elaboration. I will be brief. First, historically, and your experience will tell you that what you are saying has been true to a large extent. But analytically, although there, as I say, there is a trade union which is a pure and simple organization of workers. They form a political party which will have to take help of the non-capitalist other groups. Okay? So there is always a chance, always an element of process where there can be conflict between the party and the needs of the working class. Okay? Then I give the example of Soviet Union. There was a question that they are ruling in the name of the working class, but the workers are protesting. There is China today. The Communist Party is promoting capitalism blatantly at the cost of it. They have claimed to be communist, and many people in India call it the communist. A new reality. Market socialism or what have you. But this is a problem that has to be continuously tackled. This happens also in a particular political party, you said, and self-interest, hierarchy. That is natural. That is natural and not necessarily. In even physics, we say that there is a natural phenomenon, natural system, that becomes closed, loses freeness, loses free capacity to work, loses capacity to work. Now the problem with the bureaucratization, which has been a problem not yet solved, not yet solved. Formally, and Stalin of all the person answered it more correctly. He said, bureaucracy is condemnable. But what do you do? What is the solution? Because so long as the educational and cultural level of the leaders, so-called leaders at the top, is far above that of the cadre, formally democratic, the content will always be bureaucratic. One way of this. I say this is what it is, and you don't have the capacity to answer. So the only answer given by Stalin of all the personalities, because he is famous for not being democratic, is that the only answer to it is raising as fast as possible the cultural and educational leader of the cadre to the level of the leaders, so that all the time the cadre is ready to take over the leaders. Then there will be democracy. This is not only true in a political party, it is also true in society. We have democracy in this country, we have democracy in USA. Are they democratic? Even votes are covered in 5. Highest in USA and next highest in India.
There is one last.
My question is actually with regard to Ahmed's question in the beginning about liberty of capital. There one point in Kerala once said that Lenin, I hope, it's a line from his point, I hope the debate of Lenin and Rosa continues now, and this time Rosa wins. I hope. So this is what the problem. So where I want to talk about how Rosa talked about democratic centralism, which is basically criticized by all the democratic movements against the parties or the state structure of countries, which we don't discuss in such debates on democracy and state. So how, not much discussions have happened, this is Rosa Luxemburg Foundation, but we never discussed much about Rosa's critique on Lenin with regard to state and party. And the second question with regard to, you made a point in the beginning, the capital has two options. One is to relocate its industries by new technology and it has become so easy now. Like relocating industries has become so easy, like from one place to another. And here again I am bringing Rosa. She talked about an international working association, workers association, more than proletariat dictatorship. So yeah. So, but how much the International Workers Association have grown? Like when you relocate industries, it is very difficult to tackle that strategy of capital which you discussed. So there is a great relevance of International Workers Association. I don't know how it's grown and how it's now in its position. Thank you.
That all internationals are vanished in the face of capital's onslaught. See, given the working class, different identities in a country, caste, religion, races, within a country, nationalism. Capital's strategy will be to weaken labor, always. That you have to take for granted. To weaken labor so that it is much more easily controllable. And that it does both at the workplace by dividing hierarchically one section of the workers controlling labor, one section of labor controlling another section of labor. One placed higher than the other, a hierarchical division of labor. So that one laborer appears to be enemy to the other laborer, and capital is free. That is hierarchical, vertical hierarchy, everywhere, even in public sector. Two, the horizontal division, that is caste, religion, provincialism, nationalism, all sorts of that it will always do. And it makes it also, through the university system or school systems that you had. I look at the school system everywhere in the world, and today more than earlier, that it is not geared to educate the students, but to prepare workers of various varieties for capital to be used, not only nationally, but internationally too. Can anybody ask why? Everybody, the neoliberals who are so market fundamentalists, why is it that till 1920, labor was global in the sense that it could go anywhere without visa? Anywhere. There was free movement of labor. That today globalization says capital is global, but not labor. Localized labor and globalized capital. That's the basic neoliberal theory. Now, because the workers are divided between you are this, you are German, you are British, you are French, you are Indian, and when unemployment rises, this national identity and all sorts of identities are used to mobilize labor against labor. I give the example of Germany.